Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today we're going to be talking about some Zeta friendly teams. These are 5 teams that are very Zeta friendly that you can build at a reduced Zeta cost. I think a lot of you are in a position where Zetas are a problem, where you need a lot of Zetas and you might have some extra gear laying around. And one of the big things that you need to, that I've always encouraged you to do, is kind of match your bottlenecks. Try to get to the point where your need for gear is matching your need for Zetas. That way you're not sitting on a bunch of gear that could turn into some very good teams because you've got, the Zetas, because you don't have the Zetas for them. So here's some budget friendly teams. Some of these you might know, but some of them I guarantee you've probably not thought through, or you get daunted because you don't realize what Zetas the teams do and don't need. So let's go ahead. Please like and subscribe, comment down below. I really hope that you guys are enjoying the content, that you appreciate the little bit of effort, right? Let's be honest, that I put into these. You guys are a fantastic community, and I could not do what I do without everything I get from you guys. So I really appreciate it. You all are the best and deserve all victories in Grand Arena, unless you're facing me, because I need to win. I need the crystals. Anyway, let's get into our video here and let's talk about some budget-friendly Zeta teams. Alright, so the first one here is a biggin. Maul Mandalorians. Now, all of you are going to sit there and say, Phil, you've got, 5 Zetas on that team. That's not friendly. Hear me out. The 2 Zetas here on Fervent Rush and Seething Rage. Personally, I found when I'm using Maul in the leader slot, they're not as important. Not to say that they don't provide some value, but they're not as important as his unique Bound by Hatred. Being able to be immune to ability block, stun, is huge. Because if I can ability block him or stun him, doesn't matter how many stacks of anguish he has, he can't use his specials anyway. So you want the unique. These 2 are nice to have, but not nearly as valuable as his unique ability. The one for Canderous, listen, it just doesn't matter, right? This is not that big of a deal. He doesn't need it. And then same thing with Django. It is nice that enemies defeated on his turn can't be revived, but if you're going to be using him with the Mandalorian team, Django normally is not getting your kills, so him stopping revives isn't an issue, and if you're using him against a team where revives aren't a problem, then it doesn't matter, right? And the thing is, this is a team that you could start to invest in because Lord Vader's going to have has a new home, right? He's going to be with the dark side clones, and that kind of frees up Maul to get used with the Mandalorians here. And for a lot of you, you're probably sitting there like, well, Phil, but I want to use Maul with the Ufus. The Ufus are a very Zeta expensive team, whereas this one Zeta, the unique, with these characters here, will be fire. And especially with them having sold Django and Canderous, if you go and build Gar Saxon and Imperial Super Commando, they're very easy to gear up. You don't need a lot of relics on them. The performance out of this team will be off the charts, especially if you're in that, chromium to erodium range. This team will slap on a lot of different things. It's still good in Kyber as well, just a little bit harder to find some teams to beat because, again, in Kyber, everything sucks. So, but I think this is a really good budget team, especially not just the gear, but especially on the Zetas as well. And you'd say, oh, well, Maul needs Kyrotex. That's not fair. Listen, everybody needs Kyrotex now. There's no more cheap Kyrotex. That's a thing of the past. When we get the low Kyrotex characters, it's nice. But that should not be our sole criteria for building a character. The Zetas, this being a 1, maybe 2 Zeta if you want the 1 on Seething Rage. Very, very doable team. Really, really think this is a value one that many of you could work towards. Next, we have these Imperial Troopers, and I'm kind of lumping the Imperial Troopers together. So when you look at the team I have for Iden Versio, you only need the Zeta on Iden. You do not need Scout Trooper Zeta. In fact, Scout Trooper Zeta literally says if the ally in the leader slot is Imperial Remnant. So immediately ignore. You do not need that Zeta for this team. It's plenty good at doing what it does there. And what you'll notice is I have Range Trooper kind of in both places. What you could do is replace Range Trooper with Colonel Stark in this team. He does not need his Zeta. It's pure luxury. And then you could put Moff Gideon, who I've got listed, up inside of this Piet team. And if you put Moff Gideon there, while he does like his Zeta on Control the Situation, it's not required. You are going to need the Veer's unique Zeta, and you are going to need Piet's unique Zeta. Those are the two that you will need. Thanks, Dobby. Thanks for that, bud. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. You need the uniques on Veers and Piet. Otherwise, everything else that you would see is what I would consider a luxury Zeta. And luxury Zetas, remember, those are ones that, yes, they're good. They can help you, but they're not necessary for the team to do what it does. The argument I would make with where the Stark or the Gideon Zetas is that if you're trying to kill a much higher level team, that's where those Zetas begin to be really, really important. Next, you've got the Phoenix crew, and this is one that I think some players get a little bit daunted by because they have a lot of different Zetas. You think, like, I could go equip one to Sabine, I can go equip, one to Hera, and Captain Rex has 2, but you really only need 2 Zetas for this team to work. You need the one on Captain Rex, because that also unlocks his Omicron here. You don't need this one. This is a very luxurious Zeta. It's not required. And then you definitely do need the one on Kanan for total defense here to dispel all debuffs. You want those 2 Zetas. Those will make this team click, and it will operate very effectively at a high level. Obviously, getting more Zetas helps, but for what I've used this team with the right Datacron setups at times, and it's beat Galactic Legends. It still works really well for Conquest. I 100% will recommend that this is a great, as I said, budget-friendly, low Zeta team that you could be using for a long, long time. And for many of you, if you bought the Lightspeed bundle, you're probably getting use out of this already. Adding those 2 Zetas makes it even more consistent to beat some of those high-level teams. Piggybacking off of some Lightspeed bundle stuff, the Admiral Raddus Rogue One team. This is a very Zeta-friendly team that gets daunting because when you would look, you're like, wow, Phil, but Cassian, K2, Jin, and Admiral, like, they've all got Zetas. They all need them. No. You only need the Zetas on Admiral Raddus. You do not need the Zeta on Jin. You don't need it on Cassian. You don't need it on K2. Do they help? Sure. But it's not necessary for what that team does. That team operates, brilliantly without those Zetas. And if you were to throw in characters like Sharut and Baze, or you throw in a Scarith Rebel Pathfinder, as the 5th units up here, whatever you're going to use, these 3 characters don't have Zetas equipped. They don't have Zetas as a part of their teams. So if you put Cassian up here, you put these guys, or you throw K2, and, you can get away with having characters there that do not have Zetas, and you still get a ton of use out of this team, especially with Admiral Raddus's Omicron, which is really, really good for Grand Arena. Rogue One is still a fantastically useful team in Kyber. So I would very much recommend to utilize this team, especially for how few Zetas you are required of you in that team. And then finally, listen, I have to throw it here. The Great Mothers team, for 3 Zetas, you get a very, very good team that a lot of players will struggle to counter. And I even included the one that I would say is the weaker variant with Acolyte, Spirit, and Initiate. There's obviously better Nightsister characters you can put in here, to the extent that some of them may start needing some Zetas to get the best out of this team. But for a 3 Zeta cost, for excuse me, so unprofessional to sneeze, it's not getting cut. For a 3 Zeta team, you think there are Journey Guide characters that take 4 Zetas. There are single characters that take 3 Zetas. To get 3 Zetas on a team like this that operates at a very, very high level, you cannot beat it. And this is, again, guys, like I said, the whole concept I'm trying to get out to you with this video is think outside the box. Don't get caught up thinking, all right, I can only use Maul in this or this. Like, think about your bottlenecks right now and then recognize, can I maybe build, I'm not saying to build every single one of these teams, but maybe by equipping 1 Zeta on Maul now, you're getting a whole brand new team that you didn't have before. And what does that do? That could potentially change the way you play Grand Arena, right? That you're like, oh, I'm 1 team short. Well, now you've got the Maul team for a single Zeta that will hold you over until you can get more Zetas to invest in the Sirjunda team, right? It's all about timing. It's all about recognizing where your account is in the Zeta gear bottleneck. For someone like myself, I've got plenty of gear. I don't have the signal data, so I can't equip it. But Zetas have never been a massive issue for me in terms of when I get a new team, I normally have the Zetas to equip to them. And so what I tried to pick out was the teams where the Zetas don't necessarily make the extra Zetas. You normally need the leadership Zeta on a team, you know. But those are, you know, the teams that I listed here, I feel are all ones that you can kind of get away with not equipping, or that you don't even need other Zetas to make that team work. A lot of these other teams that you would think about, they need the Zetas. Like when you look at the CLS team, right? Like Commander Luke Skywalker has 3 Zetas. You're going to want probably 2 of those, if not 3. Chewbacca, you want at least 1. Han Solo, you want at least 1. Like it gets a little bit expensive as you start thinking through what you need that team to do. The Zetas get really expensive really quickly. So that's the end of the video, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. Please like, subscribe, comment, and if you're still watching right now, Wampa is king in the comments. You know the drill. I love you all. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.